So real quick, I just kind of wanted to show you what my day-to-day looks like on this. So I am using EndeavourOS, and I'll show you that really quick. And make it bigger. And so you'll see I'm using EndeavourOS. I did switch the kernel over to the Zen kernel from Arch Stable, and then I actually prefer fish for my shell. So I don't have fish set up for the entire system, so I can still run bash scripts if I need to, but day to day I do prefer using fish. And then with that, I do prefer Alacritty as my terminal. Now, for some of you that aren't using Linux or have never used Linux, this probably means absolutely nothing to you. The Zen kernel is just supposed to give you a little bit better performance, and I wanted to see if I could get better performance if I'm rendering videos and stuff like that. I don't really use gaming, but in theory it would give you more performance for gaming as well. And then the shell, I don't want to go into a long explanation, but basically I like fish because when I'm typing a command like how I start to type fast fetch, you'll see here that it knows what I typed before and it can help finish it. So I don't have to type the whole thing. I can just arrow over and then it's ready to go. That's primarily what I use. It's very helpful if you're doing stuff like trying to change directories, go into different stuff like this. You're not having to like type all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's that. And then I have a Ryzen 9 5900X. I'm using a Radeon RX 6950 XT. Not the newest stuff. I don't think it's really the most horrible stuff by today's standards, but to be honest with you, I've been using Mac forever, and I haven't really been up to date on all things related to PC, I suppose. But I think this will get the job done. So I have 64 gigs of RAM. It is DDR4. And then I chose to use ButterFS as my fileless system here because ButterFS is supposed to allow you to do snapshots, which I think is really interesting. So it reminded me a lot of what Apple has baked into their software, where I can basically roll back if I get a bad update. Now, I haven't figured out that piece yet. I haven't even attempted to set it up. But in theory, that's what it will do. Now, I think there probably is a piece of software I could download and use on my PC if I was using a different file system that would mimic the same thing. But I felt like because that was already kind of baked into ButterFS that it might work better. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see, I guess. I'll let you know. Then I'm using Gnome. So this is Gnome 49, which is the newest version of Gnome. And I think that it's really interesting the way they've kind of set this up. So it kind of mimics Mac in the sense that you just get what you get out of the box and you can't really customize it a whole lot. So you've had other developers come in and they make these things called extensions. And the extensions allow you to do some customization, but not a whole lot. So normally in order to see a dock in Gnome, you have to click on this little action corner and your dock would appear here at the bottom. I didn't like that at all. I thought that was really annoying. So I installed this extension called Dashed Dock, and that basically gives me a full-time dock, and then you can put all your apps on it. And then I had to install an extension to be able to put icons on my desktop, which was also extremely interesting. So normally you wouldn't be able to go in here, and then if I just wanted to drag something like this to my desktop, I wouldn't be able to do that in Gnome typically. I had to install an extension to be able to allow me to do that, which is wild. But, you know, it is what it is. It's fixable. You just got to install an extension. Then I found out the hard way. I was in the middle of recording and I lost all of my audio because my computer went to sleep. And I had to install an extension called Caffeine. And I have this set up to turn on automatically depending on what app I'm using, like if I'm using OBS or Audacity or whatever. And it was crazy. I did like this whole 20-minute rant where I'm talking about the differences between Linux and Android and Mac and all this stuff. And then I go back and I look at the footage and all the audio's gone because my computer had went to sleep in the middle of recording. So that was fun. App-wise, I haven't really had too many issues here, so I've just kind of switched some things up. So on Mac, I typically used Outlook for my email client. I'm using Thunderbird. It works fine. I got my calendar synced up. Everything seems to be working fine. I like Alacritty. That's the terminal I use. Most of my notes are done in AppFlowy. I really like this. It's It's a lot like Notion, but there's no fees, at least not yet. And then I have SimpleNote on here just if I want to take something down real quick. I don't need anything like fancy or whatever. That's kind of like an on the fly thing. And then depending on what it is, I'll come back later and I'll just transfer it into AppFlowy. Both of these are available on Android, iOS, Mac, Windows, Linux. So they're cross platform and I really like that. Video editing, I got DaVinci Resolve Studio installed. That is installed through DistroBox. And then I'm using Kdenlive. Now Kdenlive is actually pretty good. I'm coming from Final Cut. That's pretty much what I know like the back of my hand. And there were some growing pains, I will say, on both DaVinci Resolve and Kdenlive. I find myself using Kdenlive more than Resolve. I don't really like how Resolve, the Fusion tabs, like all nodes if you want to do anything like effect-wise. There is some stuff built in, but like in Final Cut, if I wanted to add an arrow or a circle, or I wanted to put my picture of me talking, like how I have this in OBS, if I wanted to put that inside of a circle, they make it a lot easier. Like there's a lot of like drag and drop stuff that you can just put on the timeline, and then you can put a couple of layers, and it's a lot faster and efficient in my opinion. And it's not so much like that in either Kdenlive or DaVinci Resolve. And I find myself gravitating more towards Kdenlive. I have had some issues. It's kind of buggy. I wasn't able to apply some LUTs, and there were a couple of other things that didn't work properly with like recording voiceovers and stuff. But for the most part, just as an editor, Kdenlive works great. It's very feature rich. I did try Shotcut as well. I liked Shotcut, but it just doesn't have a lot of stuff built into it that I needed, and I just didn't like that. I don't want to have to switch between a million different apps. Color grading in DaVinci Resolve is, I mean, there's nothing close to it. It blows everything else out of the water. So that's primarily what I've been using that for. I do most of my editing in Kdenlive, and then I color grade in DaVinci Resolve. Now, I would like to switch to kind of transition over to Resolve. They've released some new features that make it a lot more like Final Cut. So Final Cut has this magnetic timeline, and I can basically scrub it with my cursor. So just moving my cursor back and forth on the timeline, and like the audio will play, and it's quick for making like refinements and chopping stuff up. You can do that now in Resolve, but you have to assign it a hotkey. So if I wanted to hold down a key, it'll let you do that. So I think I'm going to go in and try and play with that more, and maybe try and move a lot of my editing over to Resolve, but we'll see. I use Audacity to record all of my audio. Now, I did try to use Ardor, I think is what it was called, but there was some problem with ALSA, which is like the audio backend in Linux, and all of my audio was like scrambled, and I couldn't figure out how to fix it, and I didn't want to waste any more time on it, so I just downloaded Audacity, and it works completely fine right out of the box, no issues. Video player, VLC, it's been the king of video players since I was probably in high school, so that's what I use. On Linux, it's interesting, you do have to install a bunch of like codecs for it to actually work, whereas on Mac and PC, you can basically just play anything right out of the box, but you got to install a bunch of stuff on the back end to make this as powerful as it is in Windows or Mac. I replaced Photoshop with GIMP, and that seems to work pretty good. There's a little bit of a learning curve there in terms of like, it's got layers and it functions very similar, but it doesn't have any of the AI crap built in. So if you're looking for that, then this is not the app for you. I did also look at an app called Krita, which is interesting. It kind of is like Photoshop and Inkscape kind of mashed together, but ultimately I just kind of like the workflow better in GIMP, so I kind of stuck with that. And then for Office, I'm using OnlyOffice. That looks a lot like Microsoft Office to me, and for work and school and everything else, that's just, whatever, that's the go-to, I suppose. So it wasn't hard. There wasn't a big learning curve, and it's worked fine. I've been able to type up papers I'm working on a master's degree right now, trying to get that knocked out, and I've been using that, no issues at all. I replaced AirDrop with LocalSend. Now, on Android, you do have this thing called Nearby, and you can install an app on Linux and then also on Mac. On Mac, I had this thing called NearDrop, and it seamlessly works just like AirDrop does. But because of like all the different ecosystems, I decided to just go with LocalSend because you can install this on Android, iOS, Mac, Windows, Linux. It's just there across the board and it inherently functions the exact same way. I did have a little bit of an issue getting this to work, and it was a firewall problem in EndeavourOS. So I had to go in and change some firewall settings, and then my computer and phone were able to talk to each other, and now I'm able to send everything I need to send right over, no issues. Now I changed my password manager over to Bitwarden, and I did that because it's also cross-platform. So before, if you have an iPhone, you just save everything in the Apple password thing built into the phone, and then all your passwords are also on your computer, and it's this seamless thing, and that's how they lock you into the walled garden. But I found that Bitwarden works just as good. You can set it as your default password manager like on my phone, and it functions the exact same way. So it will save all of my stuff. Everything on my phone is on my computer, vice versa, and it works great. Discord, I needed that for some work stuff that I'm doing. We have like some chats and share files and stuff in Discord. And then I also have Zoom on here, which I have to use for some work stuff too, but I just don't have it pinned to my dock. I installed Gnome software, so that's not on there right out of the box in EndeavourOS, so that I can install Flatpaks from a GUI. So you could install Flatpaks from terminal. I had to also install Flatpak or FlatHub or whatever from the terminal to get this to work, but I did that because there's certain things that just aren't in the Arch repository, and I really try to limit myself from using the AUR. I don't inherently have an issue using the AUR, but that's how you're going to run into all kinds of problems, in my opinion. So I would much rather just download the deb file from whatever application it is and then try and compile it myself than relying on someone else to do it and then update it and maintain it. And I've had issues with it, I guess, is the easiest way to put it. But it is very vast. There's all kinds of software in there. And if you need something quick, then, that's a good way to get it. I have Orca Slicer on here. I have a 3D printer. That works really well. And then I'm also using Solar for my keyboard. I have an MX Keys keyboard, and then I have an MX Master mouse. But it doesn't work. And I've installed both the Arch repository version and the Flatpak version, and it doesn't work in Arch. Now, it will work perfectly fine in Fedora. It detects everything. I don't know why it's not working in Arch, but I got to figure that out. It's not the end of the world. I just like to know if the battery's getting low on my keyboard or whatever. And I have everything already pre-configured, like all the settings on my keyboard and my mouse. So I don't really need to change any of the settings. I just like to know the status of the mouse and the battery level and stuff like that. And that's about it. That's just kind of a quick look at what I got going on here. I do prefer KDE Plasma over this, which is funny because this is a lot like Mac, but KDE Plasma is just way more robust in terms of changing things. You can change themes and icons, and you just get way more control over stuff. I can put panels on all four corners of the screen if I want to. You can make them float, not float. I can add apps. I can create my own dock. There's just so much customization you can do, and it's all built right into KDE, and I think that's really cool. Now, if I wanted to do something similar, you got to move icons to a hidden folder and do all this crazy stuff to get it to work in Gnome, and it's just not worth it, in my opinion. I spent a good hour trying to get this icon for DistroBox to work because it wouldn't export. So I had to go in and create an actual desktop file. I had to put it in the hidden folder in Gnome, and then I had to go find the icon that comes with DaVinci Resolve. I had to pull that out of the folder in DistroBox, and then I had to put it in the hidden folder, and it was just a mess. I had to edit the file to make everything all sync up and talk to each other. I just feel like it shouldn't be that complicated. And in KDE, it's not. In KDE, one, you can link an application right on your desktop. You can right click, and there's a thing on there where you can click to link an application to an icon and then fill out all the information, and boom, you're there, and it just works. And you can't do any of that kind of stuff in Gnome. So I'm hoping they fix the bug in KWin that will make my keyboard work in DaVinci Resolve, and I will switch back. But I just wanted to give you a quick look at what I got going on here for Linux, and I'll be sure to let you guys know if I run into any issues or what my problems are here down the road, and we'll kind of see if we can keep this train moving.